Hello everyone and welcome back to Minecraft, where today we will be building the Roman Colosseum, or at least a blocky square Minecraft version of it. So the reason I want to do this is because it is the first part of a new series I want to start here on the channel called Building the World, where I want to build a structure from every single country. There are 195 countries in the world, so there is plenty of work to do. Needless to say, today's focus is Italy. The reason I want to do this is because I've really been lacking ideas for Minecraft videos recently, so this should give me plenty of inspiration. So, without further ado, let's just get into it. I'll give a brief tour, and then we'll get into the tutorial in case you are crazy enough to build this absolutely mammoth reconstruction of the Colosseum. So this is what the entrance looks like to the main arena in the center. We just have a stone pathway just going straight across to the opposite gate, which we have closed for the time being, and a fox. Hello. What are you doing there? So like I was saying, yeah, we just have this stone pathway running across there. But I think this might be my favorite view of the Colosseum from the inside, because you can really get a sense of the scale of this thing. It is 51 blocks tall, including the lightning rods that are up in the corners. You can just see them over there, peeking over the top. We need those because this is an incredibly large wooden structure, and yeah, you don't want this thing catching on fire. That will be just catastrophic, honestly. Alrighty, so we've moved now into a creative world so we can have a better look at this thing. As you can see, I've arranged the seating areas in 3 different tiers. The top one's a bit bigger just for a little bit of variation, but they all follow much the same pattern really. We've just got big banks of oak stairs separated by a few lines of terracotta blocks with some lanterns on them to keep everything nice and bright. Then for the stairs up to the higher levels, we just have birch and spruce stairs. And then we also have ladders as well to get up. So yeah, we have various different levels, and not a lot of decoration inside these corridors, and yeah, just not a lot there because I don't really know what to do with it, honestly. I don't know what to do in those areas. So I've left them blank. You can think of it as a blank template, and you can fill those spaces however you would like to. I will have a very rough materials list in the description. I'm not counting all of these blocks to exact numbers. That is way too many for my brain to comprehend, and I like maths. So yeah, good luck counting all this. But if you are somehow crazy enough, I would love to know. But anyway, we also have a ladder in the middle of these outside walls on the highest level that goes all the way up to the top, and we can stand up here, and you can use this as a kind of viewing area for the wonderful world outside. And I will also mention this is very easy to build, but it is not an easy task overall. By far the most difficult thing will be collecting the materials. You can see there is a ridiculous amount of birch wood in this structure. A lot of spruce trapdoors. Trapdoors are very expensive. A lot of terracotta. So if you want to substitute blocks, switch things around, use something else, you are obviously more than welcome to do that. And that might save you a lot of time, because getting this much terracotta took me quite a while. I used the new mechanic to turn dirt into mud, into clay, into terracotta, and yeah, it's quite a process. I will say that, but that's how I got this amount of terracotta in survival mode. As for the wood, we just used a tree farm, and that should be the only ones that will cause too many issues. We also have a lot of light blocks hidden around the place, so a good source of light is necessary, but you could use torches for these. It will still work, it just won't be quite as bright. We do have a lot of these lanterns around as well, which they do eventually add up to a lot of iron, but given the rest of this thing, I don't think that's going to be your biggest concern. I would be most concerned about the terracotta, the birch, and the oak wood. We have a lot of oak wood in these corridors here on the floors, and we also have a lot on the seating areas here. And this area down here is just under a double chest full of sandstone slabs, or just under a single chest of sandstone blocks, if you want to look at it that way. So that is another one to consider as well. And I will admit, I did partly make this tutorial for myself to follow, so I knew how to build it in survival mode. So to be honest, I'm not really expecting anyone to actually build this, but in case there's anyone out there that's crazy enough to want to build this thing, here you go. So this is a square 123 blocks by 123 blocks, or a stack plus 59 from one corner to the other, if you want to look at it that way. That might help you count how big it is. And then these diagonals coming inwards, these are 29 blocks each, starting not from the corner, starting from here. So I guess it's 30 blocks from the corner, but yeah, starting here, 1, 2, 3, so on, all the way until the end will be 29 blocks. So that is your starting point. So go ahead and build that, and then we'll move on to the next step. We are now going to make a little square inside of our big square. So just on the inside corners of the diagonals we have here, we are just going to place a line of blocks along in line with the last block of our diagonals, and they should all line up and make a nice square, just like this. So do this all the way around. So we have there's a chicken in the way. Seriously, guys? I'm trying to build a Colosseum here, and you're just like standing in the way. There you go. Alrighty, let's keep going. And yeah, just build this all the way around. And you should be looking something like this when you are finished. These diagonal blocks were just for measuring purposes. Now we are going to fill in all of these 4 outside quadrants with stone. And it's worth mentioning right now that you can texture this stone if you want. Just for some context, here is my survival world, and you can see I've used a combination of pure stone along with some andesite, just sort of scattered around randomly. I didn't really put any thought, there's no sort of pattern to it. It's just a ratio of roughly 1 block of andesite to every 6 blocks of stone. And here you can see on this side, I haven't finished yet, roughly how spread out all my andesite blocks are. So if you want to copy this sort of approximate pattern, you can see roughly what I've done here. And again, like I said, you can mix in other blocks with it, stone bricks, andesite, cracked stone bricks. It all works well. So just fill in all of this area with stone. And obviously this will take a lot of stone. There's not really any getting around it. It will also take a lot of time. And it will also be a giant mob spawning platform during the night. So as you're building this, if you notice it getting dark, make sure you have a bed with you in survival mode, because otherwise you'll be running into countless issues with creepers blowing everything up. That is what you should be looking like when you are done. So next up, we're going to be marking out where all of our pillars are going to be around the outside. So come to any of the 4 corners, and just 1 block in on the diagonal, we'll place a terracotta. And then 1 further in, we'll place a stripped birch log. And then now working along sideways, we will go, we'll leave 3 blocks blank, another birch towards the outside, and a terracotta, 1 in again, a birch, 3 block gap. You get the idea. We'll just keep repeating this pattern. And if you're like me and you get to the end and it doesn't quite line up properly, you probably made a mistake somewhere, so go back and check that. My mistake was actually right at the start. It was probably as I was telling you what to do. I have a 2 block gap here instead of a 3 block gap. Whoopsies. So now I have to move all of these along by 1 block. So when you're done, you should be looking at something like this with the terracotta and birch wood all around the outside. So next up, we're going to add a little bit of light to the build by placing sea lanterns in each of these little alcoves we've created here between the birch logs. We can't do anything for the corners, so just for all the side ones, we're going to place a sea lantern in each of these gaps. So for the next step, we're going to be adding these cobblestone walls with lanterns on top to add even more light. And you can see I've already started it over here. And if you want to copy the exact positions of the lanterns that I've used, come to the gap between any of the pillars and place a block here, just a temporary one, and we're going to count 10 blocks in. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and on the 11th we will place a cobblestone wall with a lantern on top, and we can break these temporary blocks. They were just for counting. And once you've got one lantern in place, what you can do is just count 5 blocks along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a wall and a lantern, and that will line up with our next gap in the pillars. And we'll do that in front of each gap except this one at the very end. We won't need one here because there's already plenty of light from this sea lantern. So once you've put all of your lanterns in place, you should be looking something like that, and you'll have a kind of diamond shape in each corner as well. And we're almost finished lighting up this big stone square. We are just going to add a few more lanterns in these terracotta frames. So we're going to come to both of the front corners and counting outwards 5 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll break all of those. They're just for counting. Now we are going to count upwards another 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this pillar should be 5 blocks tall in total. Then coming towards the middle, we're going to count 4 blocks across. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we will build this one down to the ground just like that, and we will hang a lantern in the middle. So we have a 3 block wide gap and a lantern hanging at the top, and then we're just going to repeat this 7 more times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, build it down to the ground, and then another lantern. Once you've done that on both sides, you should be left with a 7 block gap in the center, and we are just going to connect that across the top just like that. And we will also hang a lantern just 1 block in on each side of this wider frame here. Once you've got all that in place, build exactly the same thing on the back wall. So once you've done that for the front wall and the back wall, we'll move on to the sides, and they are very easy. Just come to any of the 4 corners, and towards the opposite wall we'll just count across 4 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and build that down to the ground. Hang a lantern in the center, and we'll just repeat that over and over until we meet that wall. So when you're done, you should be looking like this from the side. So once you've got this framework all around the outside, you will need to come back to the front, and it's probably easiest to do this next step from the inside, looking out. So just where we've got this wider entryway here, just on the inside coming in on the diagonal, we're going to place a pillar of birch planks all the way up to the same height as the terracotta, just like that, and we'll do that on both sides, and we'll place an additional birch plank behind each lantern, and then we'll just connect across the top like so. So we have created somewhat of an archway here. So now we're going to turn this archway into a gate that enters into the Colosseum. So what we're going to do is just nether brick fences across the top and the next level down just under this archway. So you should be looking like that, and you can leave it just open like this for the time being. And if you want this to be a closed gate later on, you can just add another 2 lines of nether brick fences underneath. But for now, we are going to need to use this to get in and out for a few more steps. So do that on the back wall as well. So once you've got your archway in on both the front and the back wall, you'll notice I've got the back one closed and the front one open. That's another way you could do it as well. But next we will grab our birch planks once again, and we are just going to run these just 1 block in from all of our terracotta pillars, and this will go all the way around in a big square just inside the other one. So we will do that all the way around, and we're going to build this up to the same height as the terracotta. So when you're done, you should be looking something like this, with a big birch wall around the outside of your inner square. There'll be a 3-block gap just here as well, just to be sure, and this is what you'll look like from the outside. Next up, we will make a 9-block wide stone pathway directly in line with our gates. So if we line it up with the edges, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an extra 2 blocks on each side, like so. And then we'll build this all the way along to the other side, 9 blocks wide, and this will be the remainder of our stone. Once you've done that, you should have a 9-block wide stone bridge going all the way from one gate to the other, and right in the center. You can see on the left hand side I have filled up the entire area with sandstone slabs. We're going to do that on the right as well, but before we do that, I'll say you can just fill that up with sand, but you'll end up with mobs spawning all over it unless you just light it up. So what we're going to do is put some lights in the floor to hide them, and then we'll put sandstone slabs on top to allow the light to shine through. So we're going to put 3 lines of light blocks in the floor. They can be whatever kind of light blocks you like, sea lanterns, what we are using here, but they can be jack-o'-lanterns, whatever it might be that you have easiest access to, as always. But we are going to just put 1 line of them alongside the path, and then we will just place sandstone slabs across the top of all of those, so you can't see them, but they still allow the light to shine through, and that will light up the pathway, which we otherwise don't have a way of lighting up. But you can see I've marked the starting point for the other 2 lines of light blocks, 1 right in the center and 1 along the opposite edge. And these 2, you don't actually need them if you want to prevent mobs from spawning, because we're going to be adding more lights around the outside of this area later, and no mobs will spawn in the center of these areas because it is all made from slabs. So we're kind of doubling up on spawn proofing methods here. That's the wrong block. Yeah, it's the lights under here are more just to light it up evenly. So if you're a little bit short on light blocks, you can leave these ones out. It will just be a little bit dark. So yeah, just throw in these light blocks in 3 stripes, and do that on both sides of your pathway, and then just fill in the entire inside of these 2 massive rectangles with sandstone slabs. So when you're finished, you should be looking like that, with sandstone absolutely everywhere down here. Now come to either of the front corners, and we're going to place in a pillar of terracotta that is just 1 block higher than our birch planks, and we are going to build across by 4 blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we will build another pillar, and we are just going to repeat this process across by another 4 blocks, another pillar, so on until we reach the edge of our gate. And we'll do that coming from the other corner as well. So when you are finished, you should be looking like this, and then we will connect the 2 across the top of the gate like so. So next up, in each of these terracotta frames we've just created, we're going to hang an oak fence in each of the top corners with a lantern hanging from those, and we'll do that for each one. The entranceway will be a little bit different though. We are going to completely frame it with oak fences, and then we will place a lantern on each side just against those birch planks. And that is your front wall complete. So go ahead and copy that to the back wall, but not the 2 sides. They will be a little bit different, just the back wall. And I've just realized I made a mistake with the entranceway. These 3 fences above each of our entrances are meant to be fence gates. So as for our side walls, they're going to be slightly different, and we won't need to do anything special for the center. We'll just repeat the same pattern all the way along. So our frames are going to be 3 blocks wide this time instead of 4. So 3 block gap between our pillars, and instead of just having lanterns hanging from fence posts, we are going to completely frame each one of these with fence posts. I'm overusing the word frame here, but just like that, and then we are going to hang a lantern from a chain in the center. So next up, we are going to be building this terracotta exoskeleton, for lack of a better word, around our Colosseum. And Each one of these terracotta pillars will be 47 blocks tall in total. We've already got the first block in place. They're the ones that we marked out earlier here, and we're going to be building these up by a further 46 blocks. So the easiest way to do this in survival mode, I found, is to place a bucket of water at the bottom. Then you can just pillar up to the right height and then just jump down into the water and then move on to the next one. So that's probably the best way to do it. Alternatively, you could just build these up incrementally with the rest of the Colosseum. That also works. Yeah, the water method is the one that I used in my survival world, and that seemed to work just fine. Then once you've got your pillars in place, we're going to connect them all across the top with 5 more terracotta blocks. So once you've done that all the way around, you should be looking like this. So next up, we're going to be building our archways on the first level, and to do this, we're going to show this in the survival world because there is a bit of a technique to it. So come to one of the birch logs on one side of each of these gaps we have, pillar up and strip them on the way down. These pillars are 10 blocks tall in total, so it's 9 more on top of the ones we are starting with. And then we're going to do a similar thing on the other side, but while we're at the top, we will add the tops of our archways. So you also need to eat some food while you're doing this too. But anyway, so yeah, jump on top of the strip log we got down there already, add another 9 to it. Then while we're at the top, we'll look across to that side, place a staircase on the top half of the second block down, a birch wood staircase, and then look across the other side, another birch staircase, and then we will connect across the top with birch planks. Then grab an axe and strip this pillar on the way down. And that is one archway done. Go ahead and do the other 79 on the first level. So that is what you should be looking like when you are done with our archways going all the way around, 80 of them in total. And now you probably understand what I meant when I said this is very easy to build, but it will take you a very long time. So yeah, that is that. But anyway, moving on to the next step, we will come to our front entrance down here and then turn around 180 degrees to face the pillars, and we'll look at the pillar directly opposite the entrance, and we will be making a slight alteration to this one. We're going to knock out that sea lantern. We don't need that because we are going to be putting a ladder here, and this ladder will be 12 blocks tall. I actually think in this case I made it 1 block too short. I did 11, but it needs to be 12, so make sure you do that, and that will be clear later on. As for these other gaps between our columns, we're going to fill them all up with light blocks. So once again, I'm using sea lanterns, but you can use whatever you prefer. These will not be visible, so it doesn't really matter, so just use whatever is the easiest to get your hands on. So fill these all up with light blocks, and just in front of these we will be placing trapdoors. We won't do this in front of our ladder, obviously, otherwise we won't be able to get up, but yeah, in front of all these light blocks we'll just be placing 10 trapdoors and open them all up so they cover the sea lanterns, and leave the ladder exposed for the time being. And we'll also be doing the ladder on the back wall as well, just to make that one clear. Once you've done that, as you can see I have not, switch back to our stripped birch logs, and we're going to be placing one upwards in each of the 4 corners, and we're just going to build this out with sideways facing logs across the top of all of our archways, and we're going to just be building this all the way along in one big square. The only exception is when we get to our ladders, instead of ending it with the cut log end, we're just going to switch that out for a stripped birch wood, so we get the bark on all the sides there. But yeah, other than that, it's just stripped birch logs all the way around. So once you've completed all of those steps, we will come back to our ladders and we'll now place the trapdoors in front of it. So we're going to start in exactly the same way, and we'll look down and place our 10 trapdoors like we did before, and then open them all up on the way down, and then we will just knock out the bottom two trapdoors. We don't need those because we need access to the ladder. We'll add one more on top, so I guess you probably could have done that before, but anyway, there's the ladder that I missed before, and then we'll add one more trapdoor, but this time above the ladder, and we'll just leave that open for the time being. But that is what you should be looking like when you are done. So next up, we're going to be running a big square of sea lanterns on top of our birch logs we placed a short time ago, and we'll just run that all the way around in a big square. The only places these will be visible though are right next to our ladder. That trapdoor will be closed, so yeah, the only faces of these you'll ever see are these two right next to our ladder, because the rest of them are going to be covered by other blocks. So we're going to start with some dark oak stairs, and these will be facing upside down on all the inside faces, including against the ladder, and we'll run these all the way around as well. And on the outside faces of our sea lanterns, we are going to place spruce trapdoors. And if you didn't like the trapdoors after the last few steps, you are going to hate them now, because these are rather annoying to place, but nonetheless it is something we have to do. So you fill in all of those, 5 in each gap all the way around, and yeah, it's an annoying step, but we just have to do it. If you don't want to see these sea lanterns here, if you want to cover those inside faces, you can just replace them with birch logs facing upwards, strip birch logs. But yeah, I don't mind the sea lanterns, and you hardly ever see them, so it doesn't matter too much. I'll just be keeping the sea lanterns there, but it's an option if you want. So you should be looking like that when you are done. The next step is very simple. We're just going to be placing 2 layers of birch planks on top of all those sea lanterns. And when you get to the spots where we have our ladders, we are just going to skip over those. So next up, we will be adding a floor to this level. So just level with the top of our dark oak stairs, we're going to run oak slabs around in a big square all the way around, and we're going to do that 14 times, gradually coming inwards, and that will make up our floor. So when you are done, you should be looking like this. Now at this point we do have one minor problem to address, and that is just to do with lighting. Because this floor is so big, the light from the outside doesn't quite reach the inside. As you can see, at night time, mobs can spawn on the inside edge of our big floor. So what we're going to do is just run some temporary torches along here, and we will remove these later. Alternatively, you could just sleep at night, and that will also stop the mobs from spawning. So next up, come to the outside of your front entrance, and where we have these terracotta blocks just above it, we're going to build a staircase of birch planks, just coming from those up on the diagonal towards the outside, and we're going to place 6 in total. So that's 2,
3, 4, 5, 6. Anyway.
So it's just 1 block short of meeting our oak planks as slabs, as you can see there. And these birch planks, we are going to run these around in a big square around our entire Colosseum, so we can later place in our seats, and the stairs up to higher levels as well will go on these. So yeah, these are technically not 100% necessary, but given how annoying stairs can be to place, this will likely save you a lot of time. So we're going to just run these all the way around in a big square around our entire Colosseum. So when you're done, you should be looking something like this, with our birch planks all the way around, creating a kind of big bowl shape in a square. So once you've done that, come to the middle of each side. On the front and back walls it's easy because we have our trapdoors here. For the side walls, you'll just have to count to the 11th pillar from each end, and that will be your center. But we will draw an imaginary line to the inside, and then we will get rid of that once the spot is marked, and we will leave that how it was. So where we've got our center point here, we are going to build 2 staircases on either side, so that is right in line above our gate. That's another way you can find the center if you wish. So we're going to place 2 more birch planks to the right and 2 more to the left, and then we will place 2 birch stairs and run the planks all the way to the end, and we'll do the same on the opposite side. 2 birch stairs and then run the planks to the end, and these will be the tops of our staircases. So there we have it, 2 stairs, and run that all the way to the end. And yeah, this is on all 4 sides, not just the front and back walls. So next up, we are going to fill in this last little gap we have here with dark oak stairs, and just run these upside down all the way around. So next up, we are going to be building some archways along the top of this wall. So just in any of the 4 corners, we're going to build a 7-block pillar of terracotta, build it across by 5, and then build it back down to the ground. So in the center, we're left with basically a 4x4 window above the line of our floor here. And then we're going to frame the sides and the top with birch planks just set back by 1 block. That will leave us with a 2-block wide, 3-block high window, and we will place in our birch stairs upside down in the corners. And we're just going to repeat those last few steps until we get to where we've marked out our staircase. So you should be looking like this when you are done. As you can see, the last archway is just over our staircase, and we're going to do this coming from the opposite corner and repeat for all 4 sides. So when you've finished that, you'll notice we have little gaps behind each of our terracotta pillars. We're going to fill these in with 3 sea lanterns and then 3 spruce trapdoors just in front of those to cover them, and then we will place a birch plank on top. The corners will be a little bit different, and what we're going to do is place in 6 sea lanterns like so. We'll place in 3 stripped birch logs up in the corner. We'll cover our sea lanterns with trapdoors just like we did before, and then on top we are going to place in 3 birch planks like so. The only gap we have left to fill in now is the one in the middle, and this is where our ladders are going to be to get up to the next level, which you'll access from this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a T-shape of birch planks, and we will cover in that area just like that, leaving these 3 high spots for sea lanterns, and once again we will cover these in trapdoors just like so, and then that will be it for the inside, and then we will swing around over the top to the outside, and now we will grab our ladders, and we're just going to run these all the way up this central gap here. So that will be the ladder up to the next level, and we may not need that one at the bottom, I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, we will now place in a spruce trapdoor and open that up so we can get up and down our ladder easily enough, and it still connects the 2 sides. But yeah, we don't actually need that bottom ladder piece. That will be a staircase later on. So once you have done that, you should be looking like this with your ladders on all 4 sides. So now come to any of the 4 corners and count to the 3rd pillar in, and we are going to place 5 terracotta blocks going down from that pillar, and we'll place a lantern on the lowest and highest terracotta blocks there. We're going to do the same thing, just 2 pillars along from that. Once again, 5 terracotta blocks, a lantern on the lowest and highest ones, and we're going to do that 1 more time. So skip a pillar, go to the next one, and 5 terracotta blocks running down, and lantern on the lowest and highest ones. The next one is just 1 pillar along, so just to the left of where our stairs are going to be, we will place in a line here, lantern on the lowest and highest. So that is what you should be looking like when you are done. So do this coming from both corners, and do it on all 4 sides. So next up, I want you to grab 3 different kinds of stairs: spruce stairs, birch stairs, as well as oak stairs. So looking at our ladder, we have this wide area here, and up each side we will run a line of spruce stairs against our terracotta, just like that, and then 2 lines of birch, and then a line of spruce, just like this. And then in front of our ladder it will be 3 lines of birch, and this is symmetrical, so it's the same on both sides. And yeah, we'll do this on all 4 sides. So when you're done, you should be looking like this. And if you did place in that bottom ladder piece earlier, make sure you replace that with a birch stair. Unless you prefer the ladder, that choice is up to you. Next, grab some spruce stairs, and we're going to run these in a line upside down against this top row of birch planks just above our spruce trapdoors. So run these all the way around upside down, and watch out for the corners because they sometimes go the wrong way. So once you've done that, you should be looking like this with your spruce stairs running all the way around the inside there. Now come to the outside, and we're going to grab some stripped birch logs, and we will be building our arches. So build 8 blocks up with stripped birch logs, so they're a little bit shorter than the arches on the previous level, and then we will do the same on the other side, and we will connect them across the top with 3 birch planks and then 2 stairs underneath, like so. And if you're doing this in survival mode, you can use the same technique that I showed you for the first level of arches, and then in between each of our arches at the top we will place an additional birch plank right there. Then we're just left with these little gaps between our arches, and we're going to put a lantern in each one. They're not essential for lighting, they are just for decoration. Once you've done that, we're going to switch to stripped birch logs. We'll place one facing upwards in each corner, and then along the rest of the sides we'll just place them side on all the way around. So unfortunately I recorded this next bit a little bit out of order, so just ignore the sea lanterns and everything above those for now, and we'll just place in a line of dark oak stairs upside down against the top level of our birch planks here, and we'll run these all the way around. Once you've done that, we'll place in a layer of sea lanterns on top of our stripped birch logs. And we will once again cover the outsides of these with spruce trapdoors just like the level below. So once you've got those trapdoors running all the way around the outside, we're going to switch back to birch planks, and we'll just place in 2 layers of birch planks on top of our sea lanterns. And if this pattern is starting to sound familiar, it's exactly what we did one level below. So now we're placing our next floor. It's exactly the same as the previous, but this time the oak section is only 8 blocks wide. So when you are finished, you should be looking like this, with your oak slabs all the way around 8 blocks wide coming out from our dark oak stairs. Now we are going to switch back to birch planks, and we're going to be building up the next row of seating, and this one is a little bit smaller than the previous. We're just going to build out diagonally by 5 blocks and run these in big squares all the way around, just like we did on the level below. So you should be looking like that when you are done, with a 1 block gap between our birch planks and our oak slabs. So next we're going to build the framework for our next lot of archways on the inside. So just on the second step down of our birch planks, we're going to build up by 7 blocks of terracotta in the corner. We'll build across the side by 6, and then build those down to the ground, and that will give us a 5 block wide frame, and we're going to do that another 6 times, so we will have 7 in total, and do that coming from the opposite corner, and do that for all 4 sides. So once you've done that, we're going to have a 9 block wide gap in the center, and what we're going to do is just build across by 5, build it down to the ground, and then connect to the other side. And this will give us 2 4 block wide frames in the center, and the rest of course will be 5 blocks wide, so the middle 2 are slightly narrower. So once you've got your terracotta frames running all the way around the outside, we'll come to each of our narrower frames that are just 4 blocks wide, and we'll grab some birch planks, and we're going to place a line of them across just like that, and then we will do the same in the other one. So we're just filling in this space basically. Then we'll swing around the back, we'll place an additional one behind each of our pillars. These are just junk blocks, you're never going to see these, so they can be whatever you like. And then just next to that we'll actually swing around back to the inside, and then we'll place a stripped birch log pointing upwards, followed by 3 birch stairs, and then another stripped birch log on the end. And we'll do that on either side of our narrower frames. And then in the rest of these gaps we will just place a birch log, 3 planks, and another stripped birch log. In the corners we will just place another 3 birch planks, but once again you're not going to see these, so they can be whatever you like. If you want to save on some wood, you can just use something else. And the same with these gaps along the side as well, behind each of our terracotta pillars. We're not going to see those, but we need blocks there for later, so they can be whatever you want as well. Okay, so hopefully all of that made sense. Now we're going to switch to dark oak stairs, and we're going to place them upside down against all of those birch blocks we just placed, and we'll run these all the way around to fill in this last little gap we have in our floor. Next up, we're going to be placing these lines of terracotta going down once again with the lantern on the highest and lowest block. And we're going to do this against the 3rd, 5th, 7th and 8th pillars. So you should be looking like that, and do that from each corner and on all 4 sides. So next up, come to where we've marked out where our next lot of stairs are going to be going up to the next corridor, and we will place a line of spruce stairs just on the inside of our terracotta here, and we'll do that on the other side as well, just to frame our staircase, and then we will fill in this gap in the center with birch stairs. So you'll be doing this 8 times in total, twice on each side, and once you've done that, just fill in the rest of the area around our seating with oak stairs. And that is what you should be looking like when you are done with all of the stairs now in place. It's a big step, but once it's done, that is probably well past the halfway point, because that is level 2 complete. So on to level 3, we can start off by building a pillar of terracotta 4 blocks tall in each corner, and we're just going to run a line of terracotta blocks just on the inside of our top row of birch planks all the way around the outside. And once you've done that, we are going to cover all of the remaining sea lanterns with spruce trapdoors. Okie dokie, so with that now taken care of, we can shift our attention back to these terracotta frames we've marked out on the inside. We'll swing around to the corridor side, and on the corner we'll place 3 stripped birch logs with a stripped birch wood on top, because this top surface of it will be visible. And then we'll do that on each corner. Then we'll just run stripped birch logs in between, just 1 block down from our terracotta, level with the wood. Then for each of our 5 block wide frames, we'll be placing a pillar of birch just on top of all the spots we marked out earlier, and then under each of these we'll be creating our arches with 2 birch stairs just like that. And for the slightly narrower frames in the center, we're just going to be filling these up with birch planks, and we will also hang a lantern from a fence post in each of the top corners. And just like we did on the floor below, we will be filling in each of the gaps between our arches with 3 sea lanterns covered by 3 spruce trapdoors. But for the gap between our 2 boarded off sections here, we're going to do something a little bit different, and we'll break the birch log in the middle, and we will place in a ladder here to get up to the top level. So what we're going to do is we will replace both of the end birch logs here with birch wood, and then we will place a ladder in the center with a spruce trapdoor at the top, and do that on all 4 sides. So once you've done that, you should be looking something like this. Now we are going to be building our next row of arches around the outside, and these are exactly the same as the level below. And once again, we will place lanterns in the little hollows behind our pillars. Next up, we'll place a stripped birch log facing upwards on each corner, and then we will connect these with stripped birch logs lying on their sides. Next up, we will build 1 more ring of light blocks, and you're probably recognizing the pattern. So once again, on top of all these birch logs, just run a ring of light blocks all the way around. And once again, we'll cover all of the outsides of these light blocks with spruce trapdoors. Now we are going to finally break the pattern, and we will do the birch logs once again. So strip birch log facing upwards in each corner and lying on their sides all the way around. Now we will connect our inner and outer walls with a diagonal line of blocks. The first line working from the inside will be spruce stairs just above the level of our trapdoors like we've done on previous levels, and the rest will be birch planks. I'm sure I don't need to show you how to build this again. So once you've done all that, come to each of these pillars on the outside, and we're going to build a matching one on the inside, with the exception of the corners. And for the sea lanterns just behind our pillars, you're not actually going to get any additional light from those because they'll be covered on every side, so you can just replace those with a junk block if you like. But anyway, build these inside pillars to the same height as the outside ones, and we will connect all of the inside pillars in a square, just like we've done for the outside ones. So there will be a kind of floating part in the corner, as you can see, like that, but you're not really going to notice too much. Then on top of each of our inner pillars, we will place a lantern, and we'll also place 1 additional lantern on the corner blocks, like so. So do that all the way around. Next up, we're going to place our lines of terracotta going down the birch here once again. So what we're going to do is come to the third pillar just like before and place in a line going all the way down. This will be 9 blocks in total, and this time we'll have 3 lanterns because it is a bit bigger than the other ones. So we'll put one on the first, one on the 5th, and one on the 9th. I've actually put them in the wrong spots there, and now I've figured that out. So there we go. To put it simply, it's 1 lantern, skip 3, 1 lantern, skip 3, 1 lantern. So I'll do it again because we'll do this quite a few times. We'll do it on basically all the odd numbered pillars. So that was the third. We'll do it on the 5th, 7th, 9th, and so on all the way up to the 19th pillar. So yeah, lantern on the bottom one, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, then a lantern, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and a lantern on the top. Then we will start to place in our oak stairs, and unlike the previous levels, there are no spruce or birch stairs on the top level. It is just all oak. So fill in all of this area with oak stairs. Once you've done that, we'll move back up top again, and we'll grab some birch planks, and we'll place in 2 layers of birch planks on top of our birch logs we have here. For the gaps in between our terracotta pillars, we don't need to fill those in. We can just use junk blocks because you're never going to see them. And then we will, just run 2 layers of birch planks around all the rest of it. Next up is another layer of stripped birch logs, so once again, right way up in each corner and lying on their sides all the way around. So next up, we'll build our next lot of arches, and these aren't so much arches as they are small windows. So for each one, we will place 4 blocks of stripped birch logs, and then followed by 3. We'll leave a gap, and then we'll do 3 and then 4, so just the opposite of the first 2. Then we'll connect the 2 taller ones across the top of the shorter ones with 3 birch logs on their side like so. So do that in each space all the way around. Then on top of those, we will place in a layer of birch planks. To finish off the wall, we will place a stripped birch wood in each corner, and then stripped birch logs lying on their sides to connect all of them. So when you're finished, you should be looking like this, and it will have a nice little walkway all around the top. Not that you can actually get to it, but we'll talk about that later. For now, we will do the final step to top off the build, and what we're going to do is add 2 layers of iron bars on top of our outside line of terracotta, and this will stop anyone from falling off the top. And once you've done that, that is your Colosseum 100% complete. My goodness, this is quite a build, and if you have built all of this along with the tutorial, you are an absolute champion. That's insane. Anyway, what I will say though is there are a few more additions you may want to make, and I'll talk about those now. One thing you will certainly want to do is place in some lightning rods. This is an incredibly large wooden structure, and if it gets hit by lightning, that is going to be bad news. Now, usually with lightning, rain puts out the fire, but just in case it doesn't, there's a few spots where fires can start if lightning happens to strike something right in the wrong place. You will be in big trouble. So what we're going to do is place a lightning rod. We'll place 8 around the top, 1 on each corner, and then 1 in the middle of each side. And we will also place another lightning rod on the corners of each of our terracotta squares here. So yeah, going all the way down. So in total, that's 20 lightning rods. It's not too expensive compared to the whole Colosseum, and that will significantly reduce the chances of a disaster here. So definitely do that. And I tested it. I left this sitting in a thunderstorm for about an hour, and it did not catch fire. So hopefully that's enough of a test. But yeah, so definitely do that. And another thing you could do is you could either place in a ladder going up the side of one of the pillars to get to the top, so you can actually use this top walkway, or you can knock out the section just beneath it, and you can get up that way and put up a ladder through the middle. Or alternatively, you can actually start that ladder on the next floor down, or even just extend the ones from the ground floor and just have them go all the way up in between the pillars until you get to the top. There's a few options there, so hopefully one of those is helpful for you. And now with our Colosseum fully complete, we can find out how many Zoglins it takes to take down a Warden. And while we do that, let's talk about the history of the real-life Colosseum, because it is kind of interesting. So, the history begins in the year 72 AD, when construction started, and completed in the year 80. The structure was the largest amphitheatre of the time, and in fact it still holds that record to this day. Never has a larger one been built, so that's quite the impressive feat by the ancient Romans. It contains 240 arches around the outside. There are 80 on each level, and that's something I've replicated on this design. So that is part of the reason it's so big, is because I wanted to keep that fact running into the Minecraft version, even though it is square, of course. But anyway, another interesting thing about it is the name. Originally it was not called the Colosseum, it was simply just called the Amphitheatre. And the Colosseum name actually comes from a statue that once stood alongside the Colosseum. It was a colossal statue of Nero, and it was based on the Colossus of Rhodes, hence the name the Colosseum. In the 6th century, a chapel was installed into the structure of the Colosseum, although it was not officially a religious building, though it would be sanctified much later on. And as I mentioned, of course it was a gladiatorial arena, as well as a stage, so they would do plays and things like that in the center as well. They would recreate battles and mythological events, things like that. So it had various uses over time, and as late as the 12th century, sections of it were actually rented out as both residential and workshop places, which is quite interesting. It was eventually acquired by the Frangipani family. They used it as a castle until 1349, when it was struck by a massive earthquake, and that is when half the Colosseum collapsed, and we would have seen it as it is today for the most part. A lot of the fallen bricks were recycled, and other things were built with them, such as palaces, hospitals, things like that, which is quite cool. And then, as I mentioned, the Colosseum would eventually become a religious structure when Pope Benedict XIV installed the Stations of the Cross and declared it a sanctified space. Later popes would actually begin the restoration work. By this time, a lot of vegetation had overgrown the structure and were causing further damage, and in 1993 a massive restoration project took place. Didn't finish until the year 2000 and cost over 20 million euros, so they've spent a lot of money on this thing, but I'm sure it is well worth it, because it is an iconic structure. When you think Italy, you think Rome, you just think the Colosseum, as well as maybe the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but that's another story. But anyway, that is going to bring an end to this one, so I will say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I know this has been a very long video, but I really appreciate you sticking around until the very end. And if you've got any other ideas for what I could do in this Building the World series, of course this is Italy, but there are 190 something other countries in the world, so let me know what you would like to see for either your country or any other country you might have ideas for. Any other buildings in the world, would love to hear your ideas. So thank you so much for watching, really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.